The canyon air was thin and sharp, tasting of stone and pine and something older, like ash from a fire long gone cold. Morning light crept slow across the cliffs, slanting in golden blades that touched only what they could reach. Below the rise, shadows clung stubbornly to the gorge, unwilling to surrender what had nearly been taken overnight. A wild Mustang moved along the rim. He was silver-coated, though the dust dulled his shine. A scar ran down his left shoulder, like a bolt of lightning that had never fully burned away. He moved alone, not with the loping gait of a wanderer, but the tense, calculating steps of a creature separated from its own. The herd had scattered in last night's storm. Lightning had split the sky. Thunder cracked the bones of the land. By dawn they were gone, and now so was he. His ears flicked forward. There, something beneath the wind. Not the rustle of trees or the far-off cry of hawks, but a different sound. Smaller. Human. He froze. One hoof balanced midair, breath caught like a bird behind his ribs. The sound came again. A groan, barely audible. Then the crunch of fabric against stone. He crept forward. The cliff dropped sharply just ahead, crumbling into a wall of jagged shale that sloped down and down until it vanished in pine and fog. A gust of wind lifted dust on the ledge, revealing a tangled shape caught in the roots of a gnarled juniper tree. It was a woman, upside down, one boot hooked hard through a branch, her arms hanging limp, head lolling like a broken pendulum. Her badge glinted beneath her torn jacket. Sheriff. Her name was Willahart. The canyon knew her. So did the outlaws she tracked and the deputies she didn't fully trust. 36, tough as desert thistle, silent as a secret. People said she never smiled. They didn't know the weight she carried. The guilt coiled quiet beneath her ribs. Not many had earned her loyalty. Even fewer had seen her falter. And now, she dangled like a rag doll above a gorge that had no patience for mercy. The Mustang blinked. The wind lifted again, catching her voice as it spilled weakly into the air, raw, cracked, barely a whisper. Help! She wasn't speaking to him. She didn't even see him. Her eyes fluttered open once, glassy and distant, then fell shut again. Blood painted one side of her face, dry into the curve of her neck. She'd been there for hours. No radio signal. No footprints leading in or out. No one knew she was missing. He stepped closer. Something flickered behind his eyes. Not memory, but something close to it. Years ago, he had lain in a riverbed, legs shaking, lungs filled with mud. And a girl had come. Young. Kind. She knelt beside him in silence and gave him water from her cupped hands. She hadn't tried to catch him, hadn't shouted or moved fast. Just stayed. Until he could stand. This woman, she smelled like that moment. Same stillness. Same fire beneath the quiet. A rock gave way beneath his hoof. He recoiled slightly, then lowered his head and sniffed the edge. The tree branch holding her twisted under her weight, creaking ominously. Her fingers twitched. A groan escaped her lips again, this time edged with panic. Far below, a raven circled. He could leave. There was nothing binding him here. No reins, no call, no pack to return to. But his legs didn't turn. His breath stayed shallow, waiting. Willa stirred again, pain dragging her halfway to consciousness. Her voice broke on a single syllable. Please. The Mustang inched forward. Each step closer brought him nearer to the edge, where the world tilted sharply into the abyss. The wind caught his mane, pulling it sideways. He lowered his head again, sniffed the dirt, listened to her breath. Uneven now, thinner than before. She wasn't going to last much longer. His ears twitched. A thought, not quite formed, settled in his chest. Not logic, not fear, just a tether. She shifted again, and the branch screamed under the strain. Dust rained down. The Mustang reared back, startled, but didn't run. He returned, hoof by hoof, until his front legs stood within inches of the drop. His nostrils flared. His body trembled slightly. He exhaled. She hung between worlds now, one heartbeat away from falling. He took one more step. Above them, the sky opened wide, and light poured down like a quiet promise. The first thing Willa Hart remembered was heat. Not warmth, but fire, flashing behind her eyes, surging through her limbs like a warning. Her body screamed before her mind caught up. Ribs ached, shoulder burned, blood trickled from somewhere she couldn't name. She tried to move, but couldn't tell which way was up. Everything spun. The second thing she remembered was the edge. It had given without warning. She'd been walking the ridgeline, eyes trained on a set of prints that didn't belong. Too wide, too deep. They matched a man she'd been tracking for weeks. Caleb Knox, ex-Army, last seen with a stolen rifle and a twisted sense of vengeance. She'd come out alone, trusted no one to cover her back. A mistake. She hadn't seen the shale fracture beneath her boots, hadn't felt the sky shift until it was too late. One breath she was standing, the next she was plummeting, her leg caught in the crooked arms of a dead tree that jutted from the cliff face like a trap. It held her, barely, just enough to dangle her in a space between survival and freefall. Now the blood was in her mouth. She coughed, tasted copper, and blinked hard against the sweat stinging her eyes. The world swung slightly. Her back brushed the rock wall. Her fingers clawed at air. Then there was again a sound. No, a presence. Breathing. She forced her head to turn. The Mustang was still there, standing above her, hooves inches from the drop, his silver body braced like a statue carved from storm cloud and time. His mane shifted in the breeze. His eyes never left her. Not a hallucination. Not a ghost. Real. She blinked again, tried to form words. Her throat rebelled. All that came out was a rasp. You stayed? He stepped forward an inch. Dirt crumbled beneath his hoof and spilled over the edge. He didn't flinch. Her vision blurred again. She felt the blood sliding down her temple, hot and slow. Her foot, the one caught in the branch, was going numb. She couldn't feel her toes. Couldn't feel anything below her hip. She clenched her jaw, bit through the pain. A gust of wind hit, and the tree groaned. Willa's heart seized. The bark was splitting. She could hear it. Fibers stretching, snapping like threads under weight. The branch tilted slightly, enough to send her swinging just inches farther from the wall. The panic rose sharp in her chest. For the first time in years, she felt small, helpless, forgotten. And yet, she wasn't alone. The Mustang remained still but alert, his ears pinned forward. He seemed to be studying her. No, assessing. There was intelligence in that stare, something deeper than instinct. She closed her eyes, not out of surrender, but to remember. Years ago, she found a foal caught in barbed wire along a river's bend. It had been raining, and the mud sucked at her boots, but she'd knelt anyway, fingers working fast to free the creature's bleeding legs. She remembered its eyes, wide, terrified, but willing. She never stayed to watch it run. She hadn't needed to. Her breath hitched. Was this him? The scar on his shoulder, the way he lingered, the fire in his gaze. A memory stirred, wild and impossible. She let herself believe. I remember you, she whispered. Her grip slipped slightly. The bark was flaking away. Her arms ached, muscle seizing. The strain of hanging was drawing lines of agony up her spine. She bit her lip and looked up again. Help me, she said, not to the sky, but to him. The horse took one step, hoof firm, head lowered. Another gust of wind kicked up, sharper this time. Her body swung again. The tree creaked louder, and something gave a snap, clean and final. Her foot slipped from the hold. She screamed, but the fall didn't come. The branch twisted but didn't break. It jerked her downward, wrenching her leg hard, and she cried out from the jolt, the jarring impact slamming through her bones. Her breathing turned shallow, rapid. She was hanging by threads now. Above, the Mustang stepped back, then turned and vanished from view. Willa's heart cracked. Had he left? She tried to twist her neck to see, but the effort burned through her body like fire. Seconds passed. Then minutes. Silence. Then hoofbeats. Soft, deliberate. He reappeared not above her now, but beside, on a narrow outcropping just below the ledge. He had found a way down. Impossible terrain, sharp angles, unstable footing, but he had done it. She stared, breath caught in her throat. He came closer, neck outstretched. Not touching, just near enough. His presence steadied her pulse, reminded her to fight. Her hand twitched toward the knife at her belt. Not yet, but soon. The horse stood guard, unmoving, as dusk gathered its shadows around them. Darkness pressed gently over the canyon. Not yet full night, but the kind of dusky hush that made everything feel farther away, like sound helped time. The sky bled into indigo. Stars flickered like promises no one dared speak aloud. The Mustang stood motionless beside her. His body formed a wall between Willa and the yawning drop behind her. He didn't paw the ground, didn't shift nervously. He simply waited, head low, ears angled toward her every breath. She felt his warmth before she felt her own limbs again. She tried to move. Pain flashed white across her side, sharp and quick, like a blade drawn too close to the bone. Her hand scrabbled at the rock, fingernails breaking on stone. Her foot, once caught, now free, hung limp and swollen. Useless. She bit back a groan and forced her eyes open. The horse remained. Closer now. She could see the line of the scar on his shoulder, the faded tissue gleaming faintly in the gathering gloom. It matched what she remembered. That colt in the river, the barbed wire, the way he'd stayed just long enough to meet her gaze before limping off into the storm. "You!" she breathed. His ears flicked. The connection struck harder than pain. The ground beneath her shifted again. The ledge was no more than a shelf of fragile shale, too narrow, too angled. It wouldn't hold forever. She knew the terrain. It gave without warning. She needed to move. Now. Willa's breath turned ragged. She reached down, fingertips brushing the hilt of the knife, strapped to her thigh. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from cold and loss and something older, grief with no name. She gripped the blade and paused. The Mustang lowered his head, his breath stirring the hair near her temple. She turned slightly, forced a look into his eyes. "I'm going to drop," she whispered. "You have to move." He didn't. She bit her lip. Pain radiated from her shoulder. Her fingers found the worn leather of the knife's grip. She angled the blade toward the tattered strap, still twisted around her boot, and cut it in one stroke. Gravity seized her. She hit the ledge hard. The jolt knocked the air from her lungs. Stars exploded behind her eyes. Her body curled reflexively, instinct more than choice. She cried out, but she was no longer dangling. She was lying flat, breath shuddering in and out, both legs stretched over the uneven rock. The Mustang moved to her side, legs careful, breath steady. She tried to sit, failed, tried again. "Okay," she hissed, mostly to herself. Then she heard it. Above, distant, human, a voice, two voices, shouting names, calling hers, rescuers. She tilted her head toward the sky, saw the faint sweep of a searchlight arcing above the cliffs. But they weren't near enough. Not yet. Maybe too late. "I'm here," she tried to yell, but the sound fractured on her tongue. The Mustang looked up too, ears twitching. A decision passed through his body. Not visible, but felt. He turned. Not away, not to leave, but to climb. The incline above them was almost vertical. Not a trail, just a line of twisted roots and jagged stone that led up to the rim. It wasn't meant for hooves. Wasn't meant for anything. But he tested it. One hoof. Another. Slow. Deliberate. She watched him ascend a few feet, then pause. Looking back. Waiting. Her gut twisted. He wanted her to follow. "I can't," she whispered. She stopped herself. Not can't. Won't. She didn't believe she could. That was different. Willa Hart had fought meth labs, armed fugitives, and the kind of sorrow that didn't let you sleep for weeks at a time. She had done it alone. Always alone. And she'd told herself that was strength. But this horse, he hadn't left her. He had risked everything to descend. He was climbing not to escape, but to guide. She reached for the ledge's edge. Grit bit under her nails. One arm up. Drag. Then the other. She moved like a wounded animal, limbs shaking, one leg dragging behind uselessly. Every muscle screamed. Every inch fought her. The Mustang climbed higher. Pause again. She followed. An inch at a time. The world narrowed to stone and breath and pain. Her heart pounded loud in her ears. Her lungs burned. She didn't know how high they had gone until her hand hit pine needles instead of shale. She looked up. They had reached a landing, small, uneven, but flat. Enough to breathe. Enough to rest. The Mustang stood above her now, silhouetted against a flickering beam of light moving across the canyon. She collapsed beside him, not from defeat, but from arrival. Above, the voices were closer. Below, the ledge where she had lain gave way. A chunk of rock tumbled into the dark and disappeared. She didn't see it fall. She was already reaching for his mane. The wind had shifted. It blew colder now, threading through the trees like a whisper with teeth. Above the rise, flashlights pierced the gloom, casting brief arcs of gold across the trees and stones. Voices echoed, clearer now, laced with urgency and disbelief. She's happy down there. Keep sweeping. Willa's breath trembled in her chest, but her grip on the Mustang's mane didn't loosen. Her arm ached. Her body shook with exhaustion, but something deeper held her upright. Something older than instinct. The horse had climbed with her, carried her in spirit, if not on his back. She couldn't let him finish this alone. He stepped forward, scanning the slope that still remained. One last climb. Steep, jagged, a near-vertical scramble littered with loose stone and shallow root. Above it, just a dozen feet away, rescue waited. Below it, death. She swallowed hard. He moved first. The horse placed one hoof into the rocky incline, tested it, then the next. Slow, deliberate, his body stretched long, lean muscles working under silver hide as he pulled himself upward. No panic, no wild bursts, just resolve, silent and unmoving as the moon. Willa crawled after him. Her fingers clawed into dirt, caught a root, then slipped. The ground tilted. She grunted, twisted, caught herself before she slid. The pain flared like fire down her side, but she welcomed it. It meant she was still here, still fighting. Her boot slipped. A stone cracked loose beneath her and skittered down the slope, bouncing into the void below. Her stomach lurched. She held still, waited for the earth to betray her again. But it didn't. Above her, the Mustang turned. He waited. Again. His hooves were on firmer ground now. Flat earth, rim of the gorge, wind-whipped and sharp with pine. The light from the search team caught the side of his flank. Shouts rose. A flashlight fixed on him. What the hell, there's a horse up here. Wait, there's something else. There. Willa reached higher. The last few feet tore the breath from her lungs. Her arms went numb. Her vision tunneled. Her mind screamed to stop, but she didn't. One hand after the next. A pull, a slip, a cry. Then the earth gave way beneath her. She fell half a foot before the Mustang lunged. He moved without hesitation, back onto the slope, nostrils flared, teeth bared, hooves scraping stone as he reached for her with something beyond instinct. Something like memory. Her hand found his mane again. He leaned back, anchored. She pulled. Gravel sliced her palms. Tears blurred her vision. She rose. And then hands. Human hands. 2 deputies grabbed her arms, hauled her the rest of the way up. The Mustang stepped aside as they pulled her over the ledge, careful not to trample her in the chaos. Willa collapsed into the dirt, coughing, eyes wide to the stars above. The sky had never looked so wide. "She's alive!" someone yelled. "We got her!" Boots pounded around her. Radios crackled. Medical gear rustled. She felt a hand against her pulse, another tugging up her sleeve, checking for brakes. But all she could see was him, standing a few feet away, mane tangled, coat dusty, legs trembling from the climb, but head held high. A storm beast, a mountain echo, a myth made flesh. He met her gaze, and then he turned, slow and quiet, and walked away. "Wait," she croaked. The medics didn't hear her. One of them was fitting an oxygen mask over her face, another cutting open the leg of her jeans to check the swelling. "Let him go," someone said. "He probably ran wild after the storm." But Willa knew better. 2 days passed. She woke in a hospital bed with sunlight creeping through the blinds, and the smell of antiseptic curled around her lungs. Her leg was in a brace, her arm wrapped tight. She'd slept for nearly 30 hours. They told her. Could have died if they hadn't found her when they did. She asked for him before she asked for water. The nurse blinked. The horse, Willa nodded. The deputy, who came later, brought a photo on his phone. The Mustang had waited at the edge of the woods until morning. Hadn't run, hadn't flinched, just stood there, watching the mouth of the canyon like he'd left something behind. They had brought him in gently. No rope, no chase, just an open trailer and quiet voices. He hadn't resisted. He was in the holding pen behind the sheriff's station now, eating hay, resting, waiting. That afternoon, Willa walked out slowly, crutches steady under her arms. The Mustang raised his head as she approached. She stepped inside the gate. No words. He came to her, stood close, lowered his head. Their foreheads touched, and for a long moment neither of them moved. She didn't need to say thank you. He already knew.